What was thought to be worthless salvage becomes the Galactic fleet's most important ship. The outer edges of the Vela 9-star system were quiet, almost too quiet. Stars blinked in the blackness of space, and the hum of distant engines was the only sign of life. Elias Kale, a human salvage pilot, floated in his small but sturdy craft, scanning the area with careful eyes. He had spent years hunting abandoned ships, wrecked stations, and forgotten cargo. Every scrap he found was a chance to survive, and sometimes to thrive. Elias's craft, the Wanderer, wasn't much to look at. Scratched paint, patched-up engines, and a cockpit that smelled faintly of old coffee and solder. Yet it had carried him through countless dangers, from collapsing asteroid fields to radiation storms. Most humans would have avoided the edges of Vela 9. Most humans, however, weren't like Elias. He noticed a glint far off, half buried in a belt of space debris. At first he thought it was a scrap of metal from an old freighter, but something about the shape made him slow down. Carefully, he adjusted his thrusters and drifted closer. It was a ship, but not like any he had seen. Its hull was long and smooth, crafted with elegance that suggested a civilization far older than human records. Time had not been kind. Dust and cosmic frost coated every surface, and gashes from old collisions scarred its sides. The ship looked dead, abandoned, and worthless. Even so, Elias's heart raced. His instincts told him there was more to this ship than met the eye. He reached for the tow clamps, ready to pull it into his hold. As his hands brushed the hull, a strange hum echoed through the Wanderer. It was faint at first, like the echo of a distant heartbeat.
Elias froze. Just static, he muttered to himself.
Yet the hum grew louder, vibrating through the floor beneath his feet. Then, as if in response, a panel on the alien ship flickered to life. A soft, bluish glow spread across the console, illuminating the interior with an ethereal light. He blinked. Impossible! Caution wrestled with curiosity. Elias had seen technology far beyond human design, but nothing ever behaved like this. It was almost alive, and for reasons he could not explain, he felt a pull, a connection he had never felt with any machine before. The Wanderer's sensors indicated no power source, yet here it was, activating on its own. Elias floated closer, sliding a hand over the nearest console. The alien symbols danced, shifting and aligning into patterns that almost resembled star maps. Lines of light ran across the wall like flowing water. This is incredible, he whispered. The Galactic fleet, the vast coalition of human and allied civilizations, would have called this ship junk. Too old, too mysterious, too risky to touch. But Elias wasn't part of the fleet. He worked alone, and alone, he made his own choices. He checked the structure of the ship. It was intact, surprisingly strong despite the damage. Hull integrity was solid. Life support systems were dormant, but repairable. And then he noticed something strange. Tiny movements along the floor panels. Not mechanical, not automated. Like the ship was breathing. Elias shook his head. No, just tricks of the light. Yet the feeling persisted. He felt watched. Not by another being, by the ship itself. After an hour of careful maneuvering, he connected his tow line. The Wanderer's engines hummed, straining under the added load. Slowly, the alien vessel began to move. It glided beside him almost effortlessly. It didn't resist. It didn't wobble. It seemed willing. Elias laughed softly, the sound echoing in the cockpit. Well, old girl, let's see what secrets you're hiding. The journey back to the nearest human station, a bustling hub called Tarkus Prime, would take days. Elias used the time to examine the ship remotely, sending probes to scan its interior. The results were strange. No human-made technology had ever produced readings like this. Power systems were organic. The architecture of the ship defied known engineering. Always curved at impossible angles, and compartments seemed to shift slightly, almost as if rearranging themselves. Elias scratched his head. This is either a miracle or a death trap. For the first night, he camped aboard the Wanderer, using portable lights to explore the bridge. Ancient controls lined the walls, but none responded to his touch. Then, almost accidentally, he pressed a round, glowing button in the center console. The ship hummed. A beam of light shot into the air, forming a holographic map. Stars, planets, and routes he had never seen before spread out before him. He froze. This wasn't just a ship. This was a map, a library, a guide to places no human had charted. And then the ship pulsed in response to his gaze. The hum became clearer, almost like a low voice in his mind. Elias jumped back. Okay, what the... He realized slowly that the ship was responding to him. Not to his commands, not to buttons. It seemed to understand him. The lights flickered in patterns that matched his heartbeat. Pathways opened as he approached, as if it were learning him, studying him. Elias felt a thrill. If he could unlock whatever intelligence this ship held, it could change everything. But the risks were high. The fleet would never forgive him if he lost it, or if it turned dangerous. Still, curiosity outweighed caution. He spent the next hours experimenting, touching panels, sending thought-like impulses. The ship responded, revealing hidden compartments filled with tools, storage rooms, and devices of unknown purpose. And then he found it. A central chamber large and circular with a pedestal in the middle. On the pedestal rested a small crystalline device glowing softly. The ship pulsed once, twice, and then the device projected a holographic image of an alien starship fleet, long gone, extinct or forgotten. Elias could barely breathe. This is history. He realized something profound. This ship wasn't just abandoned. It had been waiting. Waiting for someone curious enough to awaken it. Waiting for someone who could see potential where others saw junk. When the Wanderer docked at Tarkus Prime, Elias received a mix of reactions. Some traders gawked at the size and beauty of the alien vessel. Most of the fleet's officers dismissed it as a curiosity, not a threat. "Worthless salvage," one grumbled, shaking his head. "You wasted your time, Kale." But Elias didn't care. He had seen what others could not. He had touched something alive in a machine. That night, alone in his cabin aboard the station, he sent a simple signal to the ship. A pattern of lights, a sequence of touches he had learned during the journey. The alien vessel responded immediately, softly glowing and pulsing as if in greeting. Elias smiled. Good. At least someone here understands me. As he drifted to sleep, he didn't notice the faint shimmer in the distance, another fleet of sensors scanning Tarkus Prime, alert to the unusual ship. Nor did he hear the faint voice inside his mind, a whisper of calculation and awareness. Finally, someone who can see me. The discovery had only just begun. The ship, dismissed by the galaxy as worthless, had awakened, and the human who had believed in it had no idea how important it was about to become. Elias Kale paced the bridge of the alien ship, his boots echoing softly against the smooth metallic floor. The ship pulsed with quiet life beneath him. Its soft hum synchronized almost perfectly with his heartbeat. He had spent hours exploring the hidden compartments, studying the alien consoles, and touching the strange, glowing devices that littered the ship. And with every interaction, the ship seemed to respond, not as a machine would, but as if it were thinking. The Galactic fleet still considered the vessel worthless. Elias had tried to call a few of their officers to share his findings, but their dismissive replies had been curt. "It's junk," one had said. "Bring it in for scrap, or leave it in the void." But Elias could feel it differently. Every twist of a corridor, every shift of a panel, told him this ship held secrets far beyond human understanding. He reached for a small console embedded in the floor, a panel that had not activated during the trip from Vela 9. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, lights ignited across the room, forming patterns that reminded him of constellations. But these weren't the familiar constellations of human maps. They were new, intricate networks connecting unknown star systems, nebulae, and asteroid fields. Elias leaned closer. His breath caught as he realized the patterns weren't random. They were predictions, routes, safe passages, and energy flows that could guide a ship through the deadliest parts of space. "What are you showing me?" he whispered. A soft vibration ran through the floor, as if the ship had heard him. Then, a faint, melodic pulse emitted from the walls. It wasn't a sound in the normal sense. It resonated in his mind, a calm, logical presence. The ship was responding. Elias took a deep breath. "You're alive." The pulse intensified, almost as if the ship were acknowledging the statement. He hesitated, then reached out to touch another console. Symbols shifted and aligned, opening a new projection. An enormous cosmic map with one feature standing out, a massive storm, sweeping across uncharted space. The colors of the storm flickered like fire, and lines traced its movement, heading straight toward multiple populated systems. Elias's eyes widened. The fleet, they don't even know this is coming. Thousands of lives, maybe millions. He could feel the ship vibrating beneath him, almost impatiently, as if urging him to act. For the first time, Elias realized the full scale of what he held. This wasn't just a ship. It was a guide, a strategist, a partner. And he was the only human capable of understanding it. Determined, he began experimenting with communication. Words didn't work. Alien symbols flashed too quickly for comprehension, and buttons seemed to react unpredictably. But patterns worked, touching sequences, pressing lights in rhythm, sliding his hand along panels. Slowly, the ship began responding more consistently. It learned from him, adapting to his style. Hours turned into a full cycle of Tarkus Prime's day-night rotation. By the end, Elias had managed to unlock one of the ship's most astonishing features, a tactical projection of star systems with simulations of movement, energy flows, and potential hazards. It was like a living encyclopedia of cosmic strategy. The implications were staggering. No human vessel, no fleet AI, could produce predictions at this scale. But with the ship's guidance, and his own instincts, Elias could anticipate threats and plan routes faster than anyone else in the galaxy. Then came the first test. The sensors on Tarkus Prime registered an anomaly at the edge of the Valus Minus system. A dense asteroid cluster, moving unnaturally fast, threatening nearby shipping lanes. The fleet scrambled, sending conventional ships to investigate. Elias, trusting the ship, decided to test its predictive abilities. He plotted a course through the cluster using the alien projections. The ship hummed in affirmation, lights flickering along the safest route. As they approached, Elias held his breath. Meteors twisted and spun unpredictably, but the alien ship adjusted instantly, rerouting power, shifting thrusters, and guiding him through gaps that should have been impossible. By the time they emerged on the other side, the fleet's ships were still struggling, some narrowly avoiding collisions. Elias grinned, heart racing. You really are amazing," the ship pulsed softly, almost as if it were pleased. Elias laughed aloud. "I guess we make a good team." But the calm was temporary. The projections of the cosmic storm flickered again, more urgently this time. The fleet officers were still skeptical, too busy with bureaucracy to act quickly. Elias knew that if the storm was as dangerous as the ship suggested, there wouldn't be time for committee decisions. He needed to convince them, or act alone. The next morning, he presented the storm projections at Tarkus Prime's fleet command. Screens displayed the alien maps, the predicted paths, and the possible consequences. Officers murmured among themselves, some skeptical, others intrigued. "This is impossible," one veteran officer said. No human pilot, no matter how skilled, could predict a storm of this size with any accuracy. "These maps," he waved at the projections, "they're speculative at best." Elias's jaw tightened. "Speculative? Look at this," he said, pointing to a projection showing an energy surge that would have destroyed several freighters last cycle if followed incorrectly. "I just guided a craft through an asteroid field using these predictions. Every movement was precise, every hazard avoided. You can call it luck, but it wasn't. It was the ship." The room fell silent. Officers exchanged wary glances. Some began to see the potential, while others simply shook their heads. Elias took a deep breath. This ship, whatever it is, responds to human intuition. I don't just pilot it, I work with it. And if we learn how to use it, we can save lives, millions of lives. But we need to start now. A long debate followed. Rules, protocols, and egos clashed. Finally, the fleet commander issued a compromise. Elias could test the ship's abilities in a controlled simulation with a small escort team. It wasn't enough. Elias knew it, but it was a start. In the simulation chamber, he entered the ship, feeling the familiar hum beneath his hands. Lights flickered as if greeting him. He tapped the consoles in the pattern he had practiced, and the ship responded, opening a projection of the storm in full detail. The swirling mass of energy, debris, and radiation filled the room as if it were right in front of him. The simulation began. He guided a virtual fleet through the storm, relying on instinct and the ship's predictive algorithms. Every decision the fleet AI had marked as impossible worked flawlessly. Routes shifted, collisions avoided, and entire convoys emerged safely on the other side. Officers watched in awe. Some whispered. Others took notes. One of the senior engineers muttered, "I don't understand it. It's as if the ship knows more than any of our combined intelligence systems." Elias smiled quietly. "It does," the ship pulsed in response, almost like a heartbeat of its own. For the first time, Elias realized the truth. The alien vessel wasn't just intelligent. It was learning. It was evolving. And with the right human partner, someone curious, adaptable, and courageous, it could do things no AI or alien civilization could. But with power came responsibility. The projections of the storm revealed paths, but also uncertainties. The ship couldn't predict everything. Cosmic anomalies, uncharted energy waves, and unknown factors remained. Elias would have to rely on his judgment, his creativity, and his humanity. That was the edge no AI could replicate. As the simulation ended, the fleet officers erupted into applause, some skeptical, some amazed, all recognizing the potential. Elias felt a thrill, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. The storm wasn't simulated. It was real. Back aboard Tarkus Prime, Elias prepared for the real test. Supplies were loaded, charts updated, and the alien ship pulsed softly, almost like a reassuring presence. For the first time, Elias felt not just confident, but hopeful. He stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. "We're ready," he whispered. The ship responded with a low hum, lights flickering across the hull. Elias reached out, touching the console. "Let's show them what humans, and a little curiosity, can do." And in that moment, he understood something profound. This ship, dismissed as worthless salvage, was not only alive, it was waiting for a mind capable of understanding it, waiting for a human who could see potential where others saw junk. Elias smiled. "Then let's get to work, old girl. There's a galaxy out there that needs saving. The Vela." 9-star system had never felt so silent. Even Tarkus Prime's bustling spaceports seemed subdued, overshadowed by the looming cosmic storm approaching the inhabited sectors. Elias Kale stood on the bridge of the alien ship, his hands lightly touching the glowing panels, feeling the familiar pulse beneath his fingertips. The ship was ready, and he knew, deep down, that it trusted him. Fleet Command had reluctantly allowed a small fleet of escort vessels to follow Elias through the storm. Officers still muttered under their breath about the human gamble and the worthless salvage, but Elias ignored them. He had a plan, a map, and an ally unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. "Coordinates locked," Elias said, his voice calm but focused. "Let's move." The ship's lights flickered softly in response, almost like an approving nod. As the Wanderer, or, as Elias had started calling it in private, the ship, rose from Tarkus Prime's docks. A low hum resonated through the hull. It wasn't just power, it was anticipation. Outside, the storm was already visible, a swirling mass of plasma, energy waves, and floating debris stretching for thousands of kilometers. It twisted and surged unpredictably, a chaotic monster of the cosmos. Sensors from the human fleet struggled to provide stable readings. This was more than any conventional navigation system could handle. Elias exhaled. "Stay with me," he whispered, not to the officers but to the ship itself. As they approached the storm, the ship reacted almost instantly. Shields glowed brighter, energy flowed into propulsion systems, and panels along the bridge shifted, opening pathways for Elias's hands. It was as if the ship could anticipate the storm's every move before it even happened. The first test came immediately. A massive shard of plasma rock spun toward the fleet escort. Fleet AI struggled to calculate a safe path, oscillating between conflicting commands. But the ship pulsed, adjusting its course slightly, and Elias followed instinctively. With a precise maneuver, the ship guided the Wanderer and the lead escort vessel through the gap, narrowly avoiding destruction.
The officers watched in stunned silence. "How did?" one muttered.
Elias didn't answer. He was too focused. Every instinct, every reflex mattered now. The storm's energy waves shifted unpredictably, creating invisible currents that tossed smaller ships like toys. The ship reacted instantly, rerouting power, adjusting thrust, and stabilizing the escort vessels. And then it did something Elias hadn't seen before. One of the escort ships was caught in a sudden plasma surge, spinning out of control. Fleet AI suggested retreat, but the ship pulsed, lights racing across the bridge in intricate patterns. Elias understood immediately. He initiated a sequence of maneuvers, guiding the stricken vessel with the ship's subtle hints. Within moments, the escort stabilized, emerging unscathed. The officers were speechless. "Impossible," one whispered. "That shouldn't have worked," Elias grinned. "It works because it listens." "And because I think." The storm intensified. Debris moved faster, plasma arcs twisted unpredictably, and gravitational anomalies threatened to tear the fleet apart. Fleet AI struggled to adapt, producing conflicting calculations that would have doomed most pilots. But the ship anticipated changes, adjusting in real time. And Elias, thinking creatively rather than following rigid rules, made the split-second decisions that no AI could predict. Hours passed. Elias guided the fleet through maze-like currents, weaving between energy waves, dodging plasma shards, and slipping past gravitational anomalies. Every time a hazard appeared, the ship reacted first, its lights and vibrations hinting at the safest path. Elias trusted those hints and, more importantly, trusted himself. The officers began to notice a pattern. It wasn't just the ship. They saw Elias's instincts guiding every move. When fleet AI faltered, Elias improvised. When conventional navigation failed, Elias calculated routes based on observation, logic, and gut feeling. Human ingenuity paired with the ship's intelligence created a synergy no machine or alien mind could match. "Look at him," one officer whispered to another. "He's not just piloting, he's thinking with it." By the midpoint of the storm, the fleet had reached a region where the plasma energy was most intense. Ships struggled to maintain formation, shields flickering under the strain. A massive energy wave, larger than any Elias had seen, barreled toward them, threatening to annihilate half the fleet. Elias didn't hesitate. He tapped a series of glowing panels, sending the ship into a pattern of maneuvers it had never executed before. Lights flickered, energy diverted, thrusters surged, and the ship began to twist in impossible ways. He called on instinct, improvising moves that were not in any protocol, and the ship followed flawlessly. The energy wave passed, narrowly missing the fleet. Officers cheered, but Elias didn't celebrate. The storm wasn't over. Deeper in the storm, anomalies became more unpredictable. Gravity wells formed suddenly, tearing ships from their course. Plasma chains arced through the void like whip cracks. And then, a strange phenomenon. A shimmering rift appeared, twisting the space around it. No human charts recorded it. No AI could predict it. The ship pulsed urgently. Elias felt the rhythm, subtle but unmistakable. "Avoid this path," He adjusted immediately, weaving through a narrow channel that opened for only a few moments. One wrong move, and the fleet would have been lost. As they emerged on the other side, Elias allowed himself a brief glance at the escort ships. Not a single vessel had been lost. Not one had suffered critical damage. And the ship. It pulsed gently, almost like a sigh of relief. Fleet officers approached Elias, awe and disbelief written across their faces. "Cale, how did you—" "It's not me," Elias said, shaking his head. "It's the ship." And maybe it's human intuition, too. We adapt. We improvise. We think differently than any AI. That's the advantage. One senior officer nodded slowly. "You've proven it. Humans do have an edge. Even in a galaxy of advanced technology, creativity and adaptability make the difference." Elias smiled faintly. "Exactly. That's what the ship recognized. That's why it responded to me." As the storm began to subside, Elias noticed the ship behaving differently again. It wasn't just reactive. It was learning. Adjusting shields, predicting currents, calculating new propulsion sequences. The ship was evolving, and Elias understood that the combination of human insight and alien intelligence was greater than the sum of its parts. Later, as they reached calmer space, Elias floated to the bridge's central console, exhausted but exhilarated. He looked out at the stars, now peaceful and distant after the storm's fury. "You did well," he said softly. "We did well." The ship pulsed in agreement, lights flickering in gentle patterns. It wasn't just a machine anymore. It was a partner, a strategist, and perhaps even a friend. Fleet officers began to report the successful navigation of the storm to Central Command. News of Elias and the worthless Salvage spread quickly. Words like hero, miracle, and legendary were whispered among officers and civilians alike. But Elias didn't care about titles or fame. He cared about one thing: proving that humans with curiosity, courage, and intelligence could succeed where technology and convention failed. That night, Elias remained aboard the ship, walking through its smooth corridors. Hidden compartments had revealed more tools, strange devices, and star maps of regions humans had never seen. He realized there was more to discover, more knowledge to unlock. And he also realized something else. The galaxy had only begun to understand the potential of humans when paired with the right technology and the right courage. He paused on the bridge, staring at the calm stars. "We've shown them what humans can do," he murmured, "but this is just the beginning." The ship pulsed softly, almost as if it were smiling. Elias felt it, an understanding, a bond that went beyond words. Together, they had survived the impossible. Together, they had proven that even in a universe full of ancient powers and advanced machines, human ingenuity could prevail. The calm after the storm was deceptive. Stars sparkled in the darkness, and Tarkus Prime's spaceports buzzed with routine activity. But Elias Cale knew that the galaxy had changed. News of his successful navigation through the cosmic storm spread faster than he had imagined. Fleet Command called him a hero. Civilians hailed him as a legend, and whispers about the worthless Salvage turned into awe-filled tales. And yet, not all attention was positive. Elias sat in the alien ship's bridge, his hands resting lightly on the glowing panels. The ship pulsed beneath him, almost as if it sensed his unease. A message from Fleet Command blinked on the nearest console. A demand to surrender the ship for official purposes. The officer's tone was polite, but firm. They wanted to study it, weaponize it, and control its abilities. They didn't understand the connection. They didn't understand that the ship was more than technology. It was alive, intelligent, and capable of learning in ways no machine had before. Elias frowned. "I can't just hand it over," he said softly, speaking aloud to the ship. "They'll turn you into a tool, and we won't be able to explore what we can really do together."
The ship pulsed, gentle but urgent, as if agreeing.
Elias nodded. He knew what had to be done. He prepared for departure. While the fleet debated protocols, he quietly powered up the ship, its lights glowing brighter than ever. The ship hummed, responding to his touch, its panels rearranging to form a navigation interface that no human had seen before. Together, they plotted a course beyond the immediate control of Fleet Command. As the alien ship glided out of Tarkus Prime's docks, officers scrambled to intercept. Fleets of patrol ships flanked the route, their weapons trained and shields up. Elias didn't hesitate. He trusted the ship. And the ship trusted him. "What do we do now?" asked Lieutenant Hara, one of the escort officers who had proven loyal during the storm. She had insisted on following Elias, seeing the bond between human and ship firsthand. "Follow my lead," Elias said calmly. "The ship has a plan." The alien vessel reacted almost instantly. Panels shifted, engines surged, and light pathways traced the optimal route through space. Elias followed the signals, weaving through asteroid belts, gravitational anomalies, and energy currents that would have confounded any conventional AI. The escort ships struggled to keep up, but Elias guided them with precision, sharing the ship's insights. Fleet Command ships fired warning shots, but the alien ship maneuvered effortlessly. Energy arcs danced across its hull, shielding it from even the strongest pulses. Elias grinned. "See? They can't control this. Not yet." As they emerged into uncharted space, the ship displayed a series of previously hidden star maps. Entire sectors of the galaxy were revealed, showing uncharted planets, ancient ruins, and resources long thought lost. Elias felt a thrill of discovery. The ship had been waiting for someone who could understand its knowledge and act on it. Over the next several weeks, Elias and the ship explored these regions, uncovering technologies and insights that astounded even the most advanced civilizations. Fleet Command continued to send emissaries, offering rewards, titles, and resources in exchange for control of the alien vessel. But Elias refused every offer. The ship pulsed softly beside him, almost like a heartbeat. It responded only to him, learning from his decisions, anticipating challenges, and evolving in ways no machine had ever done before. Together they solved problems that no AI or alien technology could manage alone. Rerouting energy flows in dying stars, stabilizing collapsing habitats, and even guiding lost colonies to safety across vast distances. Elias began to understand a deeper truth. The ship's intelligence was extraordinary, but it was humanity's creativity, empathy, and intuition that allowed them to unlock its true potential. Where algorithms and raw power failed, human judgment prevailed. Where the galaxy saw obstacles, humans saw opportunity. One day, as they approached a particularly dense nebula, sensors detected a new threat, a massive energy wave, larger and more unpredictable than the previous storm. Entire fleets would have struggled to survive it. Elias looked to the ship, feeling its pulse beneath him. "We can do this," he said. "We've done it before, and we can do it again." Together they analyzed the wave. The ship projected multiple paths, but each was risky. Elias considered them all, thinking creatively. He devised a route that no AI could predict, weaving through energy pockets, riding gravitational currents, and using small planetary bodies as shields. The ship adjusted its systems accordingly, anticipating every maneuver. The wave struck, a torrent of energy and plasma that tore through space. The escort ship struggled to maintain formation, but Elias guided them with precision, combining instinct and strategy. The ship reacted instantaneously, stabilizing shields, diverting energy, and predicting the wave's behavior before it even formed. By the time the wave passed, the entire fleet remained intact. Officers stared in amazement, realizing that a single human mind, paired with a ship's intelligence, had achieved what no fleet or AI could. Back on the bridge, Elias allowed himself a rare smile. "We did it," he said softly. "All of it. Because we worked together." News of their success reached the entire galaxy. Humans were praised not just for bravery, but for ingenuity, creativity, and strategic thinking. Scientists studied the ship and realized that while its technology was advanced, it could only reach its full potential when guided by human intuition. Humanity's value, long underestimated in a galaxy of ancient powers and automated systems, was undeniable. Fleet Command, witnessing the results firsthand, finally understood. Elias had proved something extraordinary. that humans, with their curiosity, courage, and adaptability, could achieve feats no other species or technology could. The ship, once considered worthless, had become the most important vessel in the galactic fleet, not because of its raw power, but because of its connection to humanity. Elias spent the following weeks helping other fleets navigate dangerous sectors, always accompanied by the ship. They became symbols of hope and progress. Everywhere they went, civilizations marveled at what could be accomplished when human creativity met extraordinary technology. One quiet evening, Elias stood on the bridge staring at the stars. The ship pulsed gently, a comforting rhythm beneath his hands. He spoke softly, almost as a confession. "We've shown them, haven't we? That humans, we're not just survivors, we're problem solvers, thinkers, creators." The ship pulsed in agreement, lights flickering in soft, elegant patterns. It had recognized something vital in humanity: the ability to adapt, imagine, and act where others could not. And together, they had changed the galaxy. Elias smiled. "Then let's keep going. There's so much more to see, to learn, to help." The ship responded with a low, melodic hum. It was not just alive, it was aware. And it was proud to work with the human who had awakened its potential. In the end, what had begun as worthless salvage had become the most important vessel in the galaxy, not because of its weapons, not because of its speed or power, but because it had chosen a human to guide it. Together, they had shown that the underestimated, the overlooked, the dismissed could achieve greatness. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and challenges. But with human ingenuity and the ship's intelligence, there was no obstacle they could not face. And so, humanity's triumph became clear, not through dominance, not through force, but through vision, courage, and the unwavering belief that even the smallest spark of potential could light the universe.